Hello everyone, my name is Carly and I am a light being that has reincarnated into human form at this time to help assist in the shift of consciousness. And as I have been able to plummet through different dimensions of consciousness, I am now to the point where my guides have allowed me to comprehend these dimensions into a way that can be perceived by other humans. Okay? So my entire purpose and being at this moment is to, one, just be, and two, to take those downloads and help utilize them to the collective that can understand. Okay? So today I want to talk about dimensions and duality. I'm going to explain dimensions in the way that was explained to me that resonated so deep that it was undeniable truth. Okay? It helped me understand and conceptualize these teachings in a way that I could express them to others. Okay. So, let's talk about the first dimension. The first dimension is the all I am, the singularity, the God, the all love, source, knowing, all, okay? Here's our pyramids. It's the top, the all, okay? The second dimension is duality, two, okay? So, all knowing, all I am, God source energy, how can it know more of itself without creating an opposite? So we can express and create to know more of what all is. All right, just like experiences that we've had in our human lives where we suffer something, and because of the suffering, we were able to be enlightened or perceive life differently every time, right? Every little puzzle piece gets put in. The duality. The duality is the puzzle as a whole, but the pieces are all the different fractals of light that we are and the possibilities that can be. And every time we take a piece and put it together, and say we have another piece and then another piece, it's an aha moment for us. And this is all part of the process and experience and game that we are in, that we get to play. So 2 is the duality, okay? Polarity. The third dimension is where can I create? So the third dimension, going down the pyramid, is where now can we create? So we start creating things and different possibilities, unaware, but still creating. Okay? 4, the fourth dimension, which doesn't get talked about a lot because it's a bridge. It is knowing how to manage no time and space or time and space. It's knowing how to manage the third dimensional creations. That's why it's a bridge, because it's now understanding how to use both feet while walking through the game of third dimensional creation. Okay? The fifth dimension, now we're talking about consciousness within ourselves, not yet as a collective. That makes a different conversation for dimensions. Same idea, but a vast mass, okay? Dimension, think inward, conscious, blowing holes through your consciousness, okay? Fifth dimension is I understand. And the fifth dimension is when you have put the pieces together, the one, the duality, the creation, the knowing how to utilize all of that, and you go into the I understand consciousness, where you now understand the fourth, the third, the second, and the first. Okay? In the sixth dimension of consciousness is the I can create and am aware of my creations. It's the instant manifestation and the full awareness of it. I do a video about instant manifesting and how that's what we're going into. Yes, because we're going into the fifth dimension. In the fifth dimension, I understand what I am manifesting. Okay, in the sixth, it's understanding completely and are fully aware of I can create. Sixth dimension is I can create. Okay, and you are able to create now that you have an awareness of manifestation and energy, duality, singularity. Third dimension, creation. Fourth dimension, how to utilize that creation. Fifth dimension, I understand now the creations. The sixth dimension, I can and am fully aware of being able to create. Seventh dimension, I feel and perceive enlightenment. So in the seventh dimension, I've talked about this before, where when you're in a seventh dimensional state of consciousness, you are aware that you are immortal. That's a great way to tie this in, because in the seventh dimension, you have to feel the complete embodiment and perceive your enlightenment in a way that is all understanding enough to make you have the full knowing of being immortal. And that's like Christ consciousness. I mean, Christ consciousness is even above that. I mean, talking even Jesus Christ being here, he was above a seventh dimensional state of consciousness, and that's where his immortality consciousness had stepped in, and why the resurrection happened. The resurrection was played out for humans to understand what seventh dimensional state of consciousness can do. He was even above that, but was showing a seventh dimensional state of consciousness at that time of the resurrection. Okay, that is why Christ had to be crucified and then resurrect. It was all showing us different states of consciousness and what we are able to do in that state of consciousness, not in a third dimensional state of consciousness, but in a seventh dimensional state of consciousness. So get this, eighth dimensional state of consciousness. This one was freaking cool and it really hit me today. When you're in an eighth dimensional state of consciousness, it is the dream state. It's when all timelines can exist. So any possible creation that you can possibly think of is now existent. You have come to the complete knowing of seventh, sixth, fifth, fourth, third, second, first. All of those puzzle pieces coming together and making this well-rounded puzzle picture. And now you can see the picture in the puzzle so well that you can see what it is. And that's not even the full state of dimensions. So in the eighth dimension, I want you to imagine the puzzle and all the puzzle pieces that you've put together throughout all of your different lifetimes in reincarnation to get through consciousness as a being. You've put all these puzzle pieces together and it makes a picture, and you can see the picture now. So can you see how if you were in a third dimensional state of consciousness, you wouldn't be able to see the picture of the puzzle yet? Because there aren't enough pieces that were put together for you to see what it was. In the eighth dimension, it's infinite possibilities. Infinite. An all-knowing infinite of possibilities. What is the infinity symbol? It's an 8. So the infinity symbol is an 8. The infinity comes into your consciousness when you're in an 8th dimensional state of consciousness of all infinite possibilities. I mean, to just have a complete awareness and embody of that energetically is miraculous. It's just, there's not even words to describe it. And we as light beings that have broken through these dimensions and have been to the 8th dimension in our consciousness, yes, that is a thing. In fact, a lot of people go through that when they are do ayahuasca or plant medicine. But if they haven't put the puzzle pieces together yet, and they're in a 3rd or 4th state of consciousness, and they take medicine and it blasts them through, they don't even there's no puzzle pieces there to help keep that intact for them to keep that state of consciousness embodied. So when the medicine wears off and you come back down, you're not even going to be able to perceive the hole blown through your consciousness because you don't have enough puzzle pieces yet to connect it all. And that's why ayahuasca and different plant medicines are based solely on every individual person and what is right for them or not. I've never I've never done ayahuasca. I've never gotten to experience that. Every time I wanted to experience ayahuasca, there was a block put in front of me. And even when it was like represented to me, there was a block. I know at one point it was there and I wanted to go with a friend and it was all ready to go. And I couldn't do it because I was on SSRI antidepressant medication at the time. This was 3 years ago. And look at how much time has changed. Like, everything's changed. But I couldn't do it because I was on that medication. So these blocks had been put up by my guides to keep me from doing the ayahuasca because I wasn't prepared. If I would have done the ayahuasca when I thought that it was representable to me, I would have blown a hole through my consciousness and not had been able to hang on to any of it. And if anything, it probably would have scared me and pushed me away from getting to know the all-knowing of my higher self, if that makes any sense. So everybody is different with their perceptions on plant medicine and if it's right for you or not. You got to tune in and understand that, okay? And the 9th dimension is the full embodied awareness of I am God. I am God. God has created this, me, to experience and look through my eyes as Carly on Earth in Utah. And as your eyes, wherever you are. You could be, on the other side of the world, experiencing something totally different than me. Just completely beautiful and unbelievable. So those are my perceptions on the dimensions, just to help get some clarity with anyone who just needed a bullet point. I love to play with bullet points. Get you bullet points so you can kind of perceive those things, okay? So now that we talked about dimensions, let's talk about duality. So the duality. What is duality? Well, some would say that it is sun and moon. Light, dark. God, Satan. Okay? So I'm going to use an analogy that I was just taught through Matheus De Stefano on a podcast that he did. And if you don't know who Matheus De Stefano is, he is on Gaia and does a whole series about his Akashic record memories of Atlantis and even beyond that. And I love his soul. I love everything about him. And I was listening to him today and the podcast was 3 hours long. So I figured I just started writing everything down and I figured I would take what blew my mind and help me conceptualize this and break it down smaller to tell you so you don't have to listen to a 3 hour long podcast and maybe get lost in the mix. Okay? So this is how he explained it. It's freaking awesome. So you have your 7th dimension and let's imagine that this is a house, okay? we don't have to put a dimension. Well, let's start with like, okay, say it's 9 dimension. Okay, here's your house. God, okay? Mother and father is the house. And they have kids. And the kids are the are aspects of God, just like your children are. They're aspects of you, right? They have your DNA. So the kids each have rooms. And in every room, a kid has their own room, okay? Well, here is where duality plays in. Lucifer is the soul of God in this house with all of these other sisters and brothers. And Lucifer is crammed really tight against the wall and wants more space to create. So Lucifer says, I want more space to create. I'm really tight against this wall, you know? I don't have any room. And mother and father say, well, what would you do then? And Lucifer says, well, I would take a hammer and I'd break the wall down and create more space. And they said, as you wish. So Lucifer takes a hammer and breaks down the wall and creates more space. Now, when this happened was when the all-knowing home with the mother and father and children blasted out. And that is what Lucifer did. And that is why religions have tacked Lucifer as the negative, or, you know, the suffering, or the evil, or whatever. Because the conceptualization of that is Lucifer is the one that chose to break down the wall to create more and more and more rooms for more and more children to create. But as you create more rooms, you're going down in density. The aspects are flying out, and they're going out and out and out so far away from God that they become lost. There's no right or wrong in this. This is why we are here. This is why we get to experience losing something so we know how good it was and how good it is to have it back. That's the whole point. So Lucifer is a child of God that chose to break down the wall, which was the big bang that exploded the decision into us fractaling out as little particles to create and create and create and create. And however far we want to take that is however far we do. Lucifer is the aspect of God that took free will and broke it out so we could have all of these different possibilities through negativity. Okay? It's just negativity because it's the form, the human verb that we have tacked onto the vibration. But all that it is a separation from God. It's not a bad thing. It's just separating. What happens when you get farther and farther and farther from your mom and dad? You don't even know who they are anymore. You don't know who they are anymore. If you got taken from your mom and dad when you were a baby and got sent somewhere else and lived in foster homes or whatever, and you never met them, you would not know who they are. And this is what has happened. Not that it's happened to us, it's happened for us. So we can play this infinite possibility game in all these different worlds as all these different beings and all these different lifetimes with all these different possibilities, because Lucifer chose to make that decision to break out of the all vast I am, which ultimately brought us brought God to more of what it is. Because by being opposite from, it knows more of what it is. That's why I've always said, before I even understood this, my whole life I always said, just figure out who you are not. When you figure out who you are not, you find more of what you are. And that's what God is doing. God has been doing all of these different things, playing all these different without roles. So Carly human role is just like, almost imagine like a Barbie doll. And like imagine that God is this being holding onto the Barbie doll, playing this part in a dollhouse. When I was a child, I used to have visions of God being the dollhouse and us being playing in the dollhouse. And it all makes sense for me now as an adult. And imagining that God is the dollhouse playing different Barbies inside, with all these different roles and personalities and looks and all of this. And the arm that connects the Barbie doll to its source is like, say the arm is like one of your soul fragments, not even a fragment, like your higher self, right? So this is your higher self. Barbie is the ego. Me right now is God. And that's what's happening. And the soul, the higher self, broke out into different Barbie dolls. So here's Barbie, here's Ken, here's somebody else, their dog, their cat, the plants in the house, the rocks out front, okay? Everything. Minerals, plants, animals, beings, everything that you see is connected to God and only exists because of God. But because of Lucifer making the decision to branch out is why we get to play all these different being roles. Okay? That was my analogy, not Mateus de Stefano's analogy. I'll hold that one, the Barbie doll in the dollhouse. That one was mine. Carly, human Carly's, okay? All right, so I'm hoping that makes sense to you, because when you look at Mateus de Stefano's, his perception and how he explained it, the house, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's the pyramid, right? And I'm sure he talked about that as well, but there's the pyramid, and that's the house. And then as you go down the pyramid, you're building more and more space, right? So singularity, duality, creation, okay? Creating in those, and then it's going to go more and more and more and more, right? So our dimensions, I mean, technically, so here's your singularity at the top. Let me just explain this. That's ninth dimension, right? That would be like ninth dimension. That would be God. So God is singularity. God is the ninth dimension and the first dimension, because God's first dimension is the I am all, okay? The ninth dimension is the I went through all these different steps of the pyramid and now understand that I am all. I am God, right? So top of the pyramid is ninth dimensional. Bottom of the pyramid is one dimensional. See how that works? Because it is all I am, but it's all I am down here. So that way we can go to duality, creation, awareness, okay, feeling, okay, and then going back up to the, oh, I completely lost myself, and oh, I am all. That's ninth dimension. Ninth dimension means that you as a being have broke out separate from the all I am, from the all I am, okay, and found your way back up. So the first dimension would be like you branching out, that the Big Bang, the poof, okay? First dimension, it's all I am. It's I am, all, everything, all of that, all. But the first dimension is created because of Lucifer's choice to make more space. And then now that we've made more space and we're broken out into all these different aspects, we find ourselves again. We find ourselves again. We find ourselves again. Ah, it's magical. Oh my gosh, it's beautiful, right? The orgasmic love of God. Literally, when I heard that term like a year ago in a book, I was like, boom. Oh my gosh, that just hit me on a totally different level. Orgasms. What are they? They're humans all knowing best, feeling most euphoric high, right? That's what they're supposed to be. They're the most euphoric feeling, the orgasmic love of God. And that's what we get to go back to, because we chose to separate and play this game and understand all these different dimensions and go back. And then we do it again. Doesn't end. We just keep doing it because it's freaking cool. Why wouldn't you want to do it? So the dimensions, like the way I described it with the house and everything, that's Mateus de Stefano. Beautiful soul. I mean, this guy is just phenomenal. The way he teaches and explains everything. He's on Gaia. He's got stuff on YouTube. The one I listened to specifically today, it's about a 2.5 hour, 3 hour long podcast. It's him and Aubrey something. Darn it. Sorry, I can't remember his last name. But they did a whole podcast, and oh my gosh, you guys, my mind was blown. I picked up my journal and I started drawing pictures and writing everything down, and here I am getting to explain it to you. So that's all I wanted to go through today. I don't want to overload you with information on that. Just want you to have bullet points to understand and maybe help conceptualize the vast knowing and kind of put it into our tiny human pea brain minds. Okay? It's hard to do. Not impossible. And it's beautiful when you do it. I love you all, and you have a freaking amazing night. I hope that this helped blow holes through your consciousness. I'll talk to you later. Namaste.